All right, welcome everybody. My name is Heather Bailey. I'm with Red River North Tourism, and this is a showcase interview with Maureen Flynn. Maureen is joining us. She's an author from the Selkirk region, and she's here to talk about her books. Welcome, Maureen.
Morning.
Morning. So thank you very much for doing this with me today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Let's see. I'm a lifelong resident of Selkirk. I always loved to read a lot, especially when I was younger, and a lot of Nancy Drew. And just later in life now, it's just changed to writing the books instead of reading so many.
Good. How long have you been writing?
Well, my first book came out in 2012. So I guess since about 2010 as a novel writer, but I also did some writing before that. I worked for the Selkirk Journal for a while as a reporter, and prior to that, the Enterprise News. And I had a column in there, The View from the Crow's Nest, which was all stories, local stories about Selkirk.
We'll talk about that a little while later. I had a chance to get a copy of that book, and it had me smiling the whole way through reading it.
Oh, good. Yeah. People seem to enjoy the article.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you start writing when you were quite young or just more recently?
More recently, I was not a big fan of writing in school.
Oh, really?
No, the only time I wrote something, I think I was too shy and didn't want to put on paper. But one teacher in high school gave us an assignment and we could write about anything we wanted and not put our name on it. And mine was the one that he happened to read that he enjoyed. And so that was a little bit of writing in school. But otherwise, no, I wasn't a big writer in school.
Okay. What was the first thing that you published?
The very, very first thing that was ever published was in the Enterprise News. I submitted it, and it was, I guess it was the first one of The View of the Crow's Nest, and it was all about a crow that flew around Selkirk back in the 60s, and he would wait on the top of Darewood School for the bell to ring, and as soon as all us kids ran out, he would be swooping down and chasing us. And he was well known for stealing our hats, and we'd all run home with our hands on our head. And when my memories first surfaced about him, I thought, no, this can't be real, because he actually talked as well. And I asked around, and yes, a lot of people remembered him. And since I wrote the article, there's been a picture surface of him and a video of him flying in the porch of someone's house with them on their hat, trying to take their hat.
Oh,
So
God.
yeah, he was an interesting fellow. I like him a lot now, but back in the day, I wasn't a big fan.
No kidding. No kidding. So yeah, as we're talking about the view from the crow's nest, I guess maybe how did you come up with the name?
Oh, I didn't. I have to give credit to my brother Mike for coming up with the name.
And it was and obviously the crow from Selkirk was the one who inspired his thought process on that.
That's right.
So some of the
And
other articles in the book are really quite interesting as well. Did you want to talk about a few of them or some of your more popular?
well, I'd like to say it became sort of a family project, because you had to put out a column every week, and it's, a lot of times when it was a season of Christmas or Valentine's, you would come up with ideas, but a lot of the time you were looking and the family would sit around having coffee and come up with ideas, and they often had a lot of input. And yeah, my mom participated in some of them, some of the ones about the old skating rink with the potbelly stove and the skating dances, and it was just a real fun column to write.
Yeah. And so all of the stories in the View from the Crow's Nest came from the columns?
That's right. Just a few of them. There's more that were actually in the paper, but I just picked a few to print in the book.
I like the way that you draw in, like you have some Wizard of Oz themed in some of your stories, and you kind of, it's very, very interesting for the reader who hasn't read it. It really ties everything in nicely, and it was just this. If we look into our when you went for your trip to Minneapolis for the Vikings game, and you talked about it as being a trip to Oz, it was very exciting.
It was, it was a really special holiday, and yeah, I enjoyed writing that one. And The Wizard of Oz is a big time favorite of mine, so it all worked out well.
Good. So other than Jimmy the Crow, any other favorites in the book that you want to share with us?
I kind of like the one labeled If Day. Now, I wasn't alive when that took place. I'm not that quite that old yet, but it was about a mock German invasion during the war, World War II. And I just found I was kind of amazed that that happened. And so that was fun to write about. I had to get some help on that one, but I enjoyed that one. It was, I think, printed around Remembrance Day.
Yes, yeah, that's what it said in the article. And so for our listeners, maybe go through and just talk a little bit more about what If Day is, because it was very interesting.
Yeah, I think they started off on Selkirk, and I think it was an effort to sell war bonds, and it was in Winnipeg as well, and it just give the feel of what would happen if there was an invasion. Other than that, the war was, somewhere else, but this kind of probably brought it home to the people living here.
So you talk about the skating rink and going skating in the pot-bellied stove and all of those unique things in Selkirk. And I did just want to say I didn't grow up in Selkirk. I grew up in North Winnipeg, but a lot of the things that you mentioned here, certainly driving the cars, the muscle cars and skating and all of that stuff resonated with me as well. So
Oh, that was the 8-track Take Me Back one, I think. I think all the stories, even though they're about Selkirk, I think a lot of other places could relate like you are.
yeah, yeah, good. So maybe so obviously your this book of course is nonfiction. Your articles were, how long did you write your column?
I'm guessing 2 years.
Okay. And was it right after you wrote your column that you started going into fiction books, or?
There was never really any plan to go into fiction books, but I stay at the Marlborough Hotel, and the ghost there and the true story behind the ghost really grabbed me. And I did some research at home. I found the Winnipeg Police historical files and found out a lot more about it. And I didn't decide to write a book. I decided to write a book about that.
So that was the first in a series, is that correct?
That's right.
And that
Buckle
one,
my shoe.
buckle
My shoe. Yeah.
and that was about the Marlborough Hotel, and then that followed a second one by the ghost at Fort Garry.
Oh, yeah. I always have to do the nursery rhyme in my head. 1, 2, buckle my shoe. 3, 4. The next one was Shut the Door, and that took place at the Hotel Fort Garry.
Okay. And in the Hotel Fort Garry, we we visit the ghost at the Hotel Fort Garry too. Is it a ghost story as well?
Yeah, they're not really just ghost stories. I think of them more as murder mysteries with a ghost in the background. There's also romance and a little bit of historical facts.
Okay. All right. So maybe did you want to quickly go over the characters in your book? They're really quite endearing. I really quite when I was introduced to them as I read through the books, I was quite taken with them. So maybe for our readers or our listeners, you could quickly just give us a recap of the the main characters in your series?
Sure, I know them well. They are, they become almost real people to you when you're entrenched in the writing process. And find it funny, they sometimes start to do what they want, not what I want to tell them to do. But the main character, the protagonist, is Steve Ascot, and he's a Winnipeg police homicide detective. And his sidekick, Penny, um, in the first book, she worked at the Marlborough, and Steve left the force and took a job as security at the Marlborough, and that's how they met. Steve is very meticulous. He's very neat. He likes to iron his uniform, and he's a really nice guy and an excellent detective, because even when things go another way, he always follows the evidence, and he prides himself in that. The other detectives don't like it so much that he's so thorough. And Penny and Steve develop a relationship that goes on through all three of the books. And some characters go on to the next book, some are left behind. One I kind of like is Randall. He used to work at the Marlborough with Penny, and he's quite a character, and he likes to tease Steve, and he sort of makes an appearance in all the books. I kind of like Randall. Those are the main ones, and then there's always the other story in the background about the ghost and what their life was like.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting. Without giving away, I had to say, did that really happen? So I got out my favorite search and Googled it and went, oh my God, that really did happen. So it was
Yeah,
interesting.
the latest book, Pick Up Sticks, I was amazed when I started coming up with the idea for the book and doing the research. And I do try to keep historical facts as accurate as possible. Like if I'm talking about a ship, I research that ship, I see pictures of it, and then I can describe the ship as it really was.
Excellent. Well, we won't give away too much because we don't want we want the readers to be surprised, pleasantly surprised as they read
I like that.
it. So where do you get your inspiration?
Well, like I said, the first book just sort of came to me when I found out the story about the young girl that was murdered at the Marlborough, and I wanted to tell her story. And so the inspiration comes a lot from the past history, past stories, and the modern day story or present day just sort of unfolds and matches with the old story. Um, I don't lack inspiration too often. I usually can't keep up typing with my fingers to what's going on in the head.
Yeah, yeah.
And I get some help. I ask people, what should happen here?
Good. Excellent. Who has influenced you? Other writers, other people? It doesn't have to be in your genre, maybe in your genre, whatever.
um, I'd have to say, hi, Hudson, my grandson. I have to say my mom, she's a beautiful writer. And actually back in the 80s, she was taking a writing course at the U of M. And I decided to go with her just to encourage her, but I quit after the first class and she went on. um, she's a beautiful writer. She doesn't write very often. She's had some great stories, and she has a novel outline, but she hasn't got to it. And she's told me stories my whole life, so that was an inspiration in itself. And I have to say my favorite author is Truman Capote.
Yes.
I just love his writing, anything he writes. And some of his short stories, there's a story about Christmas. That's my absolute favorite.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, we'll look forward to seeing some work from your mom getting published soon. Tell her that we're waiting for her book.
I will tell her that.
um, Any words of wisdom for new writers? Anybody that is thinking of becoming a writer? Any little words of wisdom or tidbits you can share?
Well, I feel new to this writing thing, and although I'm fairly old, I don't feel very wise yet. However, the one thing I will say for writing or for anything you want to do, don't wait and um, don't wait till you have the perfect writing room to write in. I started writing my first book at the Garson Arena parking lot while my son was practicing lacrosse. I would go in and watch the games, but a practice I sat in the car and read and wrote. So that's my best advice: is just do it. Anything you want to do, don't wait, and don't let anybody else deter you or use them as an excuse for not doing something.
And do you know what your next book is yet?
It's already started. Going to buckle my shoes. Oh, there's some 7, 8 in the nursery rhyme. I like it as shut the gate. That's what I used to say when I was a kid, but others say, no, no, it was lay them straight. And anyway, I've researched it and there's a few variations. So it'll be shut the gate. And this time, Steve and Penny are taking a little trip.
Oh, far or close?
We're still in Canada, but we're going out of Winnipeg for a little trip. There'll still be some parts in Winnipeg.
Maybe your books into movies? I know Selkirk is a hotbed for movie making. Any thoughts on?
Yes, sure. Anyone that wants to make it into a movie, you go ahead.
Well, maybe maybe somebody will view this and approach you, because I think it would make a great at home movie, that we've seen filmed in the areas around. So
Yes, thank you.
excellent. And any plans on creating or sharing with us any more local area stories? I was quite enamored with the view from the crow's nest. Maybe a part 2 with the other articles, or
Um, I'm not sure. Since I started writing the books, they take up so much time, and it's hard to add something to that. I'm already quite busy, and so I don't know. But I never planned any of this, so you never know what will happen.
Yeah, never say never.
That's right.
Good. So anything else that you would like to share with us? Anything that you think maybe the listeners would want to know about your books or about yourself, or anything that you want to share with us? Just
Um, I can't think of anything offhand. I'd like to say the ghost story part is not the main focus in the books, but it's there. And well, I'm not sure if I believe in ghosts myself. I have never seen one, but a psychic once told me about the first book that I wrote about the young girl, Edith. And she said that Edith was channeling through me to write this book to give her short life meaning. And I don't know how I feel about that, but it's a nice thought. Yep. Because when I was writing the first book about Edith, I became very close to her. And yeah, I don't know. You never know. Who knows?
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, I have read the book, and you're right. It's not a ghost story book. It's a regular everyday modern mystery, um sharing the story of two people and the different characters in the book that go along, and the ghost just kind of strings along and pulls it all together in a very exciting and interesting way. So yeah, it kind of weaves itself into the book in a nice fashion. So
thank you. One thing I'll say, I don't necessarily believe all that stuff, but I did take, if you read the first book, you know why. I did purchase a pair of shoes and delivered them to the mall girl, to the ghost of Edith.
Just
I
in
knew,
case, right?
I figured she wanted her shoes, so I took them.
Good. It's kind of like knocking on wood or whatever. You're not
I
quite sure,
guess
but you don't want to take a chance.
that's right.
Good. There was other things in the view from the crow's nest that we looked up, the skater's waltz and the I loved your story on the hoarders about the sentimental items and getting rid of stuff and that. I think it's a nice, interesting read. And like I said, when I did read through that view from the crow's nest, it had me smiling the entire time. It was a nice walk back through the ages. So it was that is an interesting read. Where can people find your books?
Oh, okay. The View from the Crow's Nest is available through Amazon, and Shut the Door. The Mighty Kiwi has been selling it for me at both their locations to start, and it's also at my daughter's restaurant, Ray's Bistro, and my husband's restaurant, Grumpy's Pizza and Cafe. And as of today, it is at McNally. It won't be on their website for a couple of weeks. They're very busy right now and she has to catch up. But she's told me if anyone wants a copy from McNally, they just have to phone and ask for it, and then they can get the curbside delivery.
Okay, and is that the pickup sticks or
Oh, pickup sticks. The first two, Buckle My Shoe and Shut the Door, apparently they're sold out. So I don't know. I only have one copy of each myself. So
yeah. Well, that's a good sign though. I mean, that's nice for you.
it is, yes. But I
Okay,
feel bad when somebody wants a copy and I have to tell them sorry.
that's okay. They can write into the publisher and maybe they'll do another run.
Yes, that would be great.
Yeah, good. Okay, so Ray's Bistro, McNally Robinson, Kiwi, and I'm sorry, your husband's restaurant was?
It's Grumpy's Pizza and Cafe, and Grumpy's has 3 R's. He's at the East St. Paul Curling Club.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time. I definitely appreciate you doing the showcase with us. Great. Thank you very much, Maureen. Happy
Thanks,
holidays.
Heather. Happy holidays.
Bye.
Bye bye.